Welcome, everybody, to the program. Today is April 21 in the year 2023. We are live here on YouTube. Welcome, everybody, to the program. We talk about some politics today. Politics, presidential politics. The late great Robert F. Kennedy is speaking through his son, Robert Kennedy Jr., running for the presidency in 2024 in America. The big question, obviously, is, can he win? Can he win? How's he going to get around Biden? Joe Biden's running. How are you going to get around it? Donald Trump is running. Maybe Donald Trump will take Robert F. Kennedy as his running mate. Maybe. Just maybe. Just maybe. Are we buffering? Are we buffering? Why does my shit say no data? My shit says no data. Welcome, everybody. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, please. We have to make sure we're live. There we are. Ding, 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 ding. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. That's your life taken away, by the way. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. How was your 420 party yesterday? 420 party. I forgot to mention it yesterday. Forgot to talk about it. Yesterday was 420. Marijuana holiday in the minds of those who indulge. So, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the program. Mark Sconti reporting on Robert F. Kennedy, Robert Franklin Kennedy Jr., the son of the late, great, dead president, almost President Robert F. Kennedy, nephew of the late, great, dead, shot dead President John F. Kennedy. And we're going to find out who this guy is. Who is he? Willie Diggs says, I'm coming in loud and clear. So who is Robert F. Kennedy? We're going to know who he is by the end of this program, because we're going to watch most of what he has been saying. He has officially announced his presidential run for 2024 in the Democratic Party. Now, of course, that's a problem because the Democrats are running Joe Biden, and he's not going to get the support of the Democrats unless Biden flippity flops. And it doesn't seem, I don't know, to this reporter, it doesn't seem possible that the Democrats will abandon their corporatist ways, their corporatist policies, and drop Biden for a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, I have been a little critical on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with his whole speech impediment, but I watched through his video, and he's not, if you get around the broken speech, which you do pretty quickly, he's not incoherent. He's not mindless. He's extremely, really aware of what he's saying and what he's about. He's been labeled an anti-vaxxer, which really is ridiculous. That was the smear given to people who questioned anything Anthony Fauci said when they were going against the science, like masking children and double masking and quadruple vaxing and all these ridiculous, unscientific approaches to taking care of yourself. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was one of the chief proponents in bringing that to people's attention. For that, he got labeled an anti-vaxxer. We'll watch a little bit about it. He'll explain it in his own words. And but overall, let's watch his. We're going to watch his campaign speech. His first coming, the beginning parts of it. He's very. I got to tell you, he's very American sentimental. In the beginning, his first 7 minutes of his talk is about the the American Revolution against the British, where the British sent over tea and it was highly taxed, and then the Americans threw the tea into the Boston fucking harbor, aka Boston Tea Party. And from there, the dirty British sent over the British warships to Britain and New York, and they tried to expunge the establishment that was behind that was responsible, and the Indians too. Shoot them too, because they ain't buying the tea. And he talks about how that was the very thing that Americans ran away from, the corporatization of their nation, right? Where corporations and state become one. A long time ago, it used to be more church and state in a different era, where church had that kind of influence over, political activity, economics, whatever. But now, and again, this is not a new message. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. sounds a lot like Bernie Sanders, 2016. Not that he not in personality, but certainly in messaging. He is perplexed by the anti-science in medicine, and other things, the incredible greed and income and wealth disparities, inequalities in America. Why some people are so wealthy and some people are so poor. And he's genuinely concerned and interested about that. So he's a very fascinating man, and we'll find out. He's a lefty. He's a lefty. You might have to suck it up and vote for a lefty. I don't know, man. But this is the thumbnail today. There he is, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is weighing in, probably in his late 60s. Sounding good, looking strong. He's got a little bit of a rumble in his voice. He's got a little bit of a shake in his voice, like kind of, he's got a shake in his voice. I don't know what the shake is, but he's got a shake in his voice. And so that's my thumbnail today. And my name is Marcus Conte. I got a website. Every morning at 9 a.m., we're live. This is educational and philosophical. This is in no way a political statement or conspiracy about government or any of that stuff, any anti-vaccination. We're none of those things. We're just simply a channel that dives into philosophical. You remember philosophy from the 2,500 years ago, Plato and Socrates? That's what I'm a fan of. Philosophy, challenging, questioning, wondering about the nature of reality. That's what philosophy is. And educational, of course, is, where they teach it or should teach it. And science. Remember science? Remember when we followed the science, we looked at the birds and the bees, and we analyzed our place in the world and how molecular stuff bangs into each other and works, and why it works. Well, I'm into that too. I'm very, very interested in that and following the science as well. But anyway, and every morning, also 7 p.m. on Tuesday, we have an open discussion, the Dharma Gathering, which is a live philosophical Dharma. Dharma is philosophy, really. It's wondering the nature of reality. Maybe I'll call it 7 p.m. live philosophy gathering of philosophers that come together. Zelle is a good way to donate to this program. Thank you all in the chat and elsewhere who have graciously offered contributions to this program ongoing. If you could, if you're very, very wealthy and you got like a couple of bags of money like laying around and you're not putting it to use, think of it as fertilizer. Think of it as if you pile your money up in your closet, it tends to stink. It's like fertilizer. It's like horse crap. You pile it up and it stinks. But if you spread it around in the garden, it does a lot of good. Right? So through Zelle at Short Happy Life, you could send some of your manure my way, and it'll grow. I promise you, it will grow. So thank you everybody for joining me. Weevil Girl on the wrench. Thank you for being here. Si Danto Biffer Liquac Quack 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 is here as well. Don't take it personal if I mess up your name. Willie Dig. What's up, Willie? Pyramid 7 is here. Zoot Suit Cooter. Mikhail Sly. Joe Mama. What's up, Joe Mama? Joe Mama in the house. Jim Gerard, what's up, Jim? Steve Zrolski, what's up, Steve? David Brown, and everybody else who's lurking. Everybody else. Clayton. What was that? New name. Clayton Burgese. Welcome. So welcome to the program. Again, my name is Mark Sconti, and I'm your host this evening, or this morning. Let's start here. If you don't know who Robert Kennedy Jr. is, well, he is the son, the direct offspring of Robert F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, the brother of John F. Kennedy, who was the president. Robert F. Kennedy was also, he was like the attorney general. His brother appointed him to a bunch of positions while he was in office. So Robert F. Kennedy, the one who was after John F. Kennedy got killed in '64, Robert F. Kennedy disappeared for a while, for like 2 or 3 years to overcome the loss of his brother, and then came back, and he ran for fucking president, right? And he was shot in California on his road to the presidency on a platform of racial equality and anti-war. He was deeply opposed to the Vietnam bombings. But here he is, the great Robert F. Kennedy. We'll begin here. Robert F. Kennedy, the real one, making the speech when he learns that Martin Luther King Jr. Has been shot. Let's listen. Let's watch.
Could you lower those signs, please? I have some very sad news for all of you, and that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis. Martin Luther King
was shot.
Dedicated his life to love and to justice between fellow human beings.
Now, Robert F. Kennedy, just for a little context, gave this speech in front of a mostly black audience, Indianapolis Park, and majority black crowd, right? And he gave this speech, after they found out that a white guy probably shot King. Right? Well, let's watch.
He died in the cause of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are, and what direction we want to move in.
Okay.
For those of you who are black, considering the evidence evidently is that there were white people who were responsible, you can be filled with bitterness
If you're joining us late, this is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. giving his speech. This is not the guy running for president. This is the dead father. 1968.
And a desire for revenge. We can move in that direction as a country, in greater polarization, black people amongst blacks, and white amongst whites, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that is spread across our land, with an effort to understand, compassion, and love. For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust of the injustice of such an act against all white people, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to get beyond or go beyond these rather difficult times. My favorite poem, my favorite poet was Aeschylus. And he once wrote, "Even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black. We can do well in this country.
Powerful.
We will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past, but we will have difficult times in the future. Mm-hmm. It is not the end of violence.
No.
It is not the end of lawlessness.
No.
And it's not the end of disorder.
Nope.
But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life, and want justice for all human beings that abide in our land. With
the great Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
And what dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. Thank you very much.
Absolutely brilliant stuff by the great Bobby Kennedy on the day of Martin Luther King being assassinated, and shortly after, 1968, Robert Kennedy himself was also gunned down. So here is the offspring. Let's find out. Let's find out if the apple falls far from the tree. We are now 68, 78, 88, 98, 2008, 18. We're almost 50 years away from that. 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago, we are now here with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running for the same position. Is he the same guy? Is he a different guy? Let's listen.
So that rebellion was in part against empire. But the spirit of that rebellion was a fury that the colonists had against the corrupt merger of state and corporate power.
Yep.
Well, I've come here today to announce my candidacy for the Democratic nomination for President of the United States.
There you go.
And my mission over
Christendom Defenders points out, damaged voice. They tried to kill him too. Do you think so? Do you think that he was jacked up with something that went right for his voice? Let him live. Just take away his voice. It's possible. That's a hell of a conspiracy theory. Who killed Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s voice?
over the next 18 months of this campaign and throughout my presidency will be to end the corrupt merger of state and corporate power that is threatening now.
State and corporate power. That's his big message right there.
Is threatening now to impose a new kind of corporate feudalism in our country, to commoditize our children, our Purple Mountain's majesty, to poison our children and our people with chemicals and pharmaceutical drugs, to strip mine our assets, to hollow out the middle class, and keep us in a constant state of war.
Weevil Girl in the chat points out it's a larynx condition. His sisters have it too, genetic from his mom's side. So you got to put the conspiracy away for just a minute.
I want to start by, first of all, I can't understand that sign language. I want to start by thanking my wife, Cheryl Hines. I would not be here without Cheryl. And I cannot describe in words what she has brought to my life, but she is the wisest person that I know.
He's talking about his wife. Pyramid 7 points out, rumor has it that Trump will end up naming him as his running mate. Oh, boy. I would, again, politically, I would say that is a good option for him. The problem is that unless you look out your window and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is riling up the crowds, I mean, filling up stadiums with young people like Bernie Sanders did, like Donald Trump does, right? Unless that phenomena occurs, it ain't going to happen. There's no chance that he's going to get over the hump. Trump's not going to pick him because Trump's going to look at him and say, he's a fucking deadbeat. He can't even get 100 people in the room. The Democrats are not going to go with him because he's they got Biden. They already got their patsy. So, I mean, Trump, that ball would be in Trump's court. Does Trump want to take Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s crowd to the White House? Because he certainly can. And he would certainly damage the Democrats bigly. If Robert F. Kennedy Jr. defects to the Republican Party, that is a big ass blow to the Democrats, who will certainly lose. And Trump might make that calculation, but it's a good calculation. But you can't. You got the very, very, very wild card in there, which is Trump. Trump is, you can't predict what Trump is going to do. He's not gonna make any move until the last minute, until he absolutely thinks it's the right move.
He's also one of the funniest people I know, and I think the American people get to know her, that they are going to be more excited about having a really funny first lady in the White House than they are about me.
The other question is, would Robert F. Kennedy Jr. make a good president? Ask yourself that. I think he would make a great president. I think Bernie Sanders would have made a fantastic president. At some point, Bernie Sanders capitulated under some sort of unusual behavior, unusual condition that we didn't see. Maybe they threatened his kids. Maybe the CIA, FBI leaned on him. Who knows why Bernie capitulated so quickly, but he certainly did, and he did it twice. Is this guy the same make? You could see where does that sort of government attack? What does it look like? Well, just look at Trump. Look what they do to Trump. They arrest all his friends. They bring him up on frivolous, criminal charges, fake fucking impeachment, and on and on and on. He's a Russian asset. All right. So.
I also want to thank all my family members who showed up today. My children, Bobby, Kick, Amaryllis.
My children. Can you get used to listening to his voice like this? Hello, I'm Robert Kennedy, and I'm running for president of the United States. I hope you'll vote for me. Really.
Honor, Kira, Finbar, Aiden.
I'm making fun of the handicap.
Did I leave any out? I told them to wear name tags, and I can't see them from here. And a cat. So that's my.
He's got a cat, man. You got to vote for him right there. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Mark Sconti reporting. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has a cat, and therefore he's president worthy. Fuck the dog, man. I don't want to see another dog in the White House. Get a cat. Well, a couple of them, man. Get a whole family of cats and keep them together. Mom and Pop and all the kittens. That's the White House I want to see. Digging up the rose garden.
My grandchildren, Zoe and Cassius and Bobcat. My brother, Douglas. My sister, Courtney. My nephews, Bo and Billy Birdsall and Rob.
It's clear the defect, whatever, the voice thing is just a voice thing. It's certainly not mental. He's extremely clear. It doesn't look like he's incoherent or mentally challenged whatsoever. That's his personality, and that's the voice he was dealt, and that's how he's lived his life. So I don't see any other than the auditory fucking annoyance of having to listen to him. But you get used to it, and he's 100% coherent. He's not incoherent. Like, what did he say? Like a Joe Biden. Like, what did Joe just say? You have no idea, because Joe doesn't know what he just said.
Eileen and George and Anthony Shriver, I am so grateful for you coming here. And Gatto. I said Gatto. Okay. I'm very, very grateful to all of you.
Whoa.
Most American families, they never have any differences with each other.
Sharon Anderson says, well, I'm voting for Kennedy in primary and main election. Well, you might not get either. If you don't get the primary, you're not going to get a main election. Democrats can pick. They're not going to have a primary. There is no primary. There's no Democratic primary if the incumbent is running. That's Joe Biden. If the Democrats run Joe Biden, there is no primary. Understand? They have their candidate. He's the president of the United States. Now, can Joe beat Trump? They cheated and they rigged it and whatever once already, so he probably can. Is he coherent? Is he even able to debate anymore? I don't think so, but But again, my prediction is that Biden is the candidate leading up to the presidential 2024 election. And at the last minute, or like a few months, or two before, They're going to yank him. He's going to have a stroke. He's going to have a breakdown, and then they're going to pass it to somebody else, thereby eliminating the need for a primary. And don't kid yourself. It's not going to be, they're not going to go and pick Robert Kennedy. They're going to pick a fucking corporatist like Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg or one of them characters.
Oh, when one does, it's...
The only thing that tilts it, the only thing that can tilt it is like with Bernie Sanders. When millions of people stand up and fight back, nothing, there's nothing we can't do. My Bernie voice hurts. There's nothing we can do. Nothing we can't. There's nothing we can do if we can't. There's nothing we can't do, fucking Bernie, if we come together. Unless he has a million young people standing in front of him, like Bernie did, it's not going to happen.
So when that happens in a family, it's really huge news, like everywhere. And but you know, I want to just say this: I'm very grateful that many of the families who disagree with what I'm doing today, many of the family members have taken the time to write me beautiful letters of love this week, to send me emails, to make telephone calls to me. And I mean,
the other part of it is he's a rich guy, and he's reinforming America the truth about where we are as a country in terms of race, in terms of income and wealth inequality. And that in itself, that's a great service. But does it get him over the finish line to be president?
I bear no ill will or any kind of disappointment to any of them. They have different views of the politics in this country. My whole family, including myself, have long personal relationships with President Biden. Many of my family members are working in the administration. Many of them also just plain disagree with me on issues like censorship, on war, on public health, and they are entitled to their beliefs, and I respect their opinions on them, and I love them back. And my hope...
He's very elegant. He's very human, very cordial, very wide appeal. Again, the shaky voice aside, he's very articulate in many senses, I think. More so than Marianne Faithfull, whatever her name is. Marianne, I can't even remember her name. Marianne, she's running for president. She's an activist. She's an abolitionist.
And is it too much to hope that we could have the same thing for our country? We have a polarization in this country today that is so toxic and so dangerous, and at any time since the Civil War. During the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln said, a country or a nation, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And when I talk to both Republican friends and Democratic friends, they talk about this division in almost apocalyptical terms. Nobody can see a safe way or a good way out of it.
Let's move on. I want to. Here he is on Tucker Carlson. That's his announcement speech. Let's listen to him battle it out on Tucker Carlson. See if he Tucker. I watched this. Tucker threw him a softball, but let's listen to him handle the question. My fundamental issue with the way he addresses things is that you got to get to the point right away. He seems to dilly-dally with little stories. People lose focus. Talk to people that do this. Talk all the time. You got to get to the point or people turn you off. I don't fucking know what he's talking about. He's talking about slaves and 400 years ago. Tell me what it matters to me. All right, get to the point.
Honored to have him on our show tonight. He joins us now. Bobby, thanks so much for coming on. So you are, of course, being dismissed as a vaccine nut, but watching your announcement today, it wasn't about pharma even so much as it was about America's place in the world and what do we do about it. If you wouldn't mind summarizing for our viewers where you think we are and what you think we ought to do.
Well, I gave a long speech, Tucker, and thank you again for having me on.
Of course.
And for that very kind of an introduction. I think that the general theme of my speech was this corrupt merger of state and corporate power, which is turning our country into a corporate kleptocracy.
Corporate protocracy. It just occurred to me, right? If you can, they have operations for your eyes. Like you could see cataract fucking surgery, or lens surgery, and then LASIK, and suddenly you don't need glasses anymore. Maybe they could get this guy a new larynx, right? Fucking come on, man. Get him a new, all the money, pool all the Kennedy's money together, and buy Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a new larynx.
Into a system of socialism for the rich, and this kind of a cushy socialism for the rich, and this kind of brutal, merciless capitalism for the poor. It keeps us in a state of war. It bails out banks at the same time that last month, the United States government told 30 million people it was cutting their their food stamp checks by 90%. It took 15 million people off of Medicare.
Okay, see how he rambles? He goes on and on. I lose focus. Zoot Suit Cooter points out the AOC Dems will hate this guy. He's too much like Trump. I fear for his safety. I think he's more like Bernie. Could you, for the AOC crowd who loved Bernie Sanders and that whole messaging of, flattening the corporate playing field for regular people was wildly popular amongst AOC crowd. That would be interesting if AOC ignores this guy and supports Biden, right? What a flip. No, we're not about that anymore. I already got elected. We don't care about those are our sponsors, the corporations. You got it all. I had it wrong. I was young and full of, I didn't know. Now I know. You got to suck the corporations dry, because then we wouldn't be here.
Same month, it gave $300 million to the Silicon Valley Bank and tapped up the cost of the Ukraine war to $113 billion. We're sending $113 billion to the Ukraine. The entire budget of EPA is $12 billion. The budget of CDC is $11 billion. We have 57% of American citizens could not put their hands on $1,000 if they have an emergency.
That's too many numbers, Robert Kennedy Jr. You got to get down. You got to say simple things to simple people. Most of the people in America are not fucking high intellect. They're like, yeah. They talk about bread and butter issues, right? Remember Obama? How Obama's brilliant. Obama's a Harvard lawyer, professor, fucking editor of the Law Review. He's a poet, and he spoke to people in the simplest terms. He said the corporations are hoodwinking you, and fucking people were crazy. Yeah. You got to be simple. You got to keep it simple. You got to keep it. People don't digest all those big numbers. They don't even know what you're talking about.
A quarter of our citizens are hungry. So we're cutting welfare and food stamps by 90%. And we're bailing out the bankers. We're paying for a war that, we can't afford. Mm-hmm. And with the way that we do this is by printing money. We've printed 10 centuries of money in the last 14 years. And that caused the inflation, which raises food, which is a tax on the poor.
Right.
Oh, we've raised food prices for basic food.
It's totally Bernie Sanders messaging. It's 2016, putting your finger on the income and wealth disparities in this country. That's precisely what Bernie did. Some people, even in this chat, are calling it socialism, but that's not what it is.
Foods like chicken.
What is socialism? It's the term itself. The term socialism has become a slur of some sort. It's an economic system in a country at a certain time that historically kind of worked and then didn't work. It's just like capitalism. It kind of works and then it doesn't work. It works until it doesn't work. So, but socialism has lost its steam. You know, it's a smear.
Dairy and milk by 76% in the last 2 years, and now we're cutting people's food stamps and bailing out banks the same month. It doesn't make any sense, and we need to get rid of this kind of corporate control of our government. It comes from this, you know, our democracy is devolving into kind of a corporate blue.
JBS Films says, so you want him to dumb it down for you? Question mark. No, I don't want him to dumb it down. I want him to, and it's not for me. I want him to win. I want him to get a winning message. I want him to keep it simple, simple words. You see how I keep repeating myself and my volume gets a little louder and I drive it home to you? All right. He's got to do more of that. He's got to be more, he's got to rev up the emotion. Rev up the emotion, like lean into it and keep saying the same thing over and over again. How many times did Trump say lock her up? When he said lock her up and the crowd went crazy, what did he do? He said it some more. That's how it works. That's politics. That's what I'm talking about. When you're running for office, you're a celebrity. You got to take yourself like look at yourself like a rock star. I'm going to be the most famous motherfucker in the world, like Trump. That's how you win.
Plutocracy.
I would think that what you just said, and I'll just be honest, I agree with most of it. But even if I didn't, I would think, boy, that's a really interesting thing to say. You have a coherent worldview. You've written a lot of books on these topics. You've clearly thought about it. You're not in it for the money. So don't these issues deserve a wide hearing before the public entering a presidential year? It seems to me that they do.
Come on, Tucker. Mention 2016. That was the platform. Everything this guy just said is reminiscent of 2016. My, how we forget.
I would think they would, and particularly the issues of war. And, my son went over and fought in the Ukraine. As I said today, I think
wait a second. You sent your son, or you allowed your son to walk out the door and go to Ukraine and kill the dirty Russians? I don't know about that. That's bad judgment. That's poor judgment. You let your kid go to a foreign country, Ukraine, and shoot at Russians and maybe and anybody else and participate in that insanity? Are you fucking crazy? I thought we weren't even supposed to have troops on the ground in Ukraine. And you sent your son there?
People, the major doyens, sort of the most respected diplomatic gurus like Henry Kissinger and Jack Matlock and Larry Wilkinson have all said the Ukraine war is a huge problem for our country because from a geopolitical standpoint, it's driving the Russians close to the Chinese, which is the worst thing for us. But we're there for the right reasons because we have tremendous compassion for the Ukrainian people. And
That's a bad worldview. I'm sorry. I disagree. The Ukraine war, our involvement in the Ukraine debacle is not compassion. We should have thought of that. The Bidens should have thought of that before they vilified Zelensky and then impeached Trump over that very issue. Remember, Trump got impeached for having a conversation with Zelensky on the phone about the Democrats impeached him, not the people or the Republican Party, but the Democratic radical left, impeached Trump on a conversation that he had with Zelensky, the then president of Ukraine, because Trump was pushing him on government corruption with the Bidens, right? And so, and then in that power vacuum, right? Now there's a power vacuum because now you're vilify Zelensky was a hero, and then suddenly he's siding with Trump, so the Democrats threw him under the bus, and got rid of Trump, and then they took him back in. Right, but in the wake of that, you had the Russians say, "Oh, look, power vacuum. The Americans are not supporting Zelensky anymore in Ukraine. Let's take it back." So where does Robert F. Kennedy Jr., where in his mind does he not only agree and think that the efforts in Ukraine are our efforts, the American input in Ukraine is valid? Not only that, but he sent his fucking son with a gun to shoot at the Russians. He didn't send, but the kid went anyway, without any resistance from his father.
Illegal invasion, the brutality, and also their valor and their courage. My own son was serving over there. He joined a special forces unit as a machine gunner. He fought in the Kharkiv offensive.
His son is in the special forces. That means his son is either a SEAL or above, because that allegedly, that's all we really sent there. We sent our elite troops. The elitists are there. Those are the guys that fucking, they're all sharpshooters, and they can live underwater in 30 degrees for an hour. Those guys, the SEALs.
Americans care about the underdog. They care about that kind of suffering. But the question is, why are we in the Ukraine? Because Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense.
We are in the Ukraine because of the reasons I just told you about, that the Democrats vilified Zelensky because he sided with Trump. They went after Trump and consequentially went after Zelensky. And that's when the Russians stepped in and took power. And then they came back and said, "Oh, we're sorry, here's $1 billion. Here's $100 billion. Here's $50 billion.
Said that we're there to exhaust the Russians. President Biden has said that we're there to deplatform, to depose Vladimir Putin. And if that's why we're there, and we're killing a lot of Ukrainians as pawns in a proxy war between two great powers. Here's one last thing I would say. Nobody talks about this. There's 14,000 Ukrainian civilians who have died, but
he's almost identical to Bernie Sanders. That his financial his belief about corporate plutocracy or corporate run government is extremely accurate and spot on. But he's also similar in his overly compassionate view of, war. Right? If you're compassionate about war, your position should be no boots on the ground, no guns at all whatsoever, ever, until the war spills out into our property, and then we start shooting back.
300,000 troops. The Russians are killing Ukrainians at a 7-to-1 to 8-to-1 ratio. They cannot sustain this. What we're being told about this war is just not true.
No, it's not true.
None of it's true, but you sent your kid there to fucking die over it. Marcus, Johnny Half says, Marcus, there are mercenaries over there. No, Marcus, there are mercenaries over there. Well, what is a mercenary? Special forces, I believe that we don't know. That's the truth. But we do now know whatever. There was evidence recently that we have troops on the ground in Ukraine, and they are special forces. And here's the fucking nominee for president of the United States who just told you his son was there as a special force. He just told you. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just told you that his son went to the Ukraine and fought as a United States Special Forces person. That's evidence right there. What else we got? Here he is attacking. Let's listen to him on vaccines.
And I would not be very good at my job if I didn't enjoy reading science and if I could not read it critically.
Right.
And so I sat down, and I didn't read the studies, but I read the abstracts. And I got about 6 inches down on that pile. Mm-hmm. And I was just dumbstruck by this huge delta between what the public health agencies were saying the science said, and what the actual peer-reviewed published science was saying. And I started after that doing what I always did when I didn't understand something. I had, because of my name and my family's relationships with these agencies, I could always get the head of an agency on a phone very quickly. And
That's pretty good. That's pretty good when you can do that. When you can call anybody. I'm Kennedy. I'm a Kennedy. The Kennedy. Excuse me, Mr. Musk. Excuse me, Elon. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is on the phone. Would you like to take the call or tell him to call you back? I'll take the call. It's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I love this father. Put him on.
started calling them and
His uncle was cool too.
asking questions. I got Francis Collins from NIH and Kathleen Stratton and Marie McCormick from Institute of Medicine. And
So he took a deep dive into the vaccine issue. He took a deep dive, and for that they called him an anti-vaxxer because he was looking at the science and not the fucking listening to the talking heads like Fauci.
he told me something weird. I asked him about the science, and I realized they were completely not conversant with it. They were just parroting this phrase, safe and effective. They hadn't read any of the actual science. And when I asked them about details, they said, you have to talk to Paul Offit. Well, Paul Offit is a vaccine developer who's a partner of Merck's. And, I had been working with EPA for many years, suing about probably 20% of my lawsuits were against EPA, which is a
He got the advice they gave him is go talk to the guy who used to work for the pharmaceutical company. Fucking crazy, right?
captive agency, but captive by the oil and chemical and pesticide industries. And, EPA, if I call a science guy or a regulator there, they're going to have some self-respect.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to answer my question. They're not going to direct me to a coal industry.
All right, I don't know what he said about Fauci. He's going to say something about Fauci, but who cares? He's clearly not an anti-vaxxer. He's a pro-scientist. He's looking at the science in the issues, like many of us who have science backgrounds. This guy's a lawyer. Looked at the science and said, "Wait a minute, that doesn't add up. That's not how masks are used. Wait, vaccines. That's not the vaccines." The virus changes and then the vaccine is impotent. You don't need many of us viewed it that way. But so anyway, Robert F. Kennedy, we gave him a shot there. We gave him a shot. Markets are open to the anti-corporatist mother effers out there. We're talking about the stock market because we want to see this shit go up. All right. So S&P 500 down 5 points. Dow Jones Industrial Average up 5. I call that flat. NASDAQ hovering down roughly 43 points to 12,016, still above 12,000 mark. Apple down $1.64. That's the drag on the NASDAQ right there. Amazon up $1.65. Google flat or a little red, down 11 cents. Meta up, Meta down, formerly Facebook, down 2.5. I'm losing faith in Facebook. I don't think that they're really a player anymore. They got a lot of people, but I don't know if they're a real player anymore. My Facebook, I toy around with Facebook, but it's to me it's garbage. It's not authentic anymore. If you put a video link there, they won't even, nobody sees it. It's just fucking stupid. Facebook got stupid. And Twitter seems to be bouncing back a little bit. Rivian, down 38 cents. Tesla, down another $1 today on bad earnings from yesterday. Taking a bit of a hit, down 10% over the last 2 weeks. Probably a buy opportunity. Let it come down to fucking let it come down to $50 and then buy some. It's going to go right back up. The great Elon Musk. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Lockheed Martin down. Raytheon also down. Those are your war stocks. If you want to see if Wall Street believes that the politicians are going to get some more war, then those stocks tend to rally up. If they think if Wall Street thinks that the politicians are going to get more vaccine in your arm, then these go up. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna. Right now they're mixed. So we watch, these are the things we watch here. We watch the military-industrial complex. We watch the pharmaceutical-industrial complex. We watch big tech to see if they're going to get an edge on everybody with AI. So thank you for joining me, Mark Sconti, reporting on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You know, love him or hate him, he's out there. He's definitely out there. He's definitely, a couple hundred people in front of him, although the camera didn't swing to the crowd, so we don't know. We'll assume that there's a couple of hundred watching, and we'll see. We'll keep in touch. We'll keep watching to see. Tucker Carlson gave him, fucking platform to speak. That's big. Tucker's a 500,000 people. Let's see if he goes to the Young Turks. Let's see if he goes to, even less than. Go talk to Joe Rogan. He'd be a great interview for Joe Rogan, They smoke a joint together and they talk with the larynxing. All their larynx is, their voice boxes fall apart. They just sit there and stare at each other. Fucking, yo, what's up, Joe, man? I fucking love your shit, Joe. Oh, thank you, Robert. I like you too, man. I love your vibrating voice, man. It's okay, man. It's okay. Thank you. My voice is great, man. Oh, this is good weed, Joe. Where'd you get this weed? Where'd you get the weed, Joe? Where'd you get the weed? Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. It's beautiful today. It's going to be 80 and sunny today in Northeast Pennsylvania. And enjoy that. Got to get out there, man. Got to get out there. I'll ring us out. Peace, everybody. Mark Sconti reporting.